And join us for another exciting special edition of Called into Christ. Today I am excited to have a very special guest, Dr. David Graves, an internationally renowned biblical archaeologist, educator, and prolific author. Dr. Graves earned his PhD from the University of Aberdeen in Scotland and called New Brunswick his home. Dr. Graves served as assistant professor at Liberty University Online School of Religion in Lynchburg, Virginia, where he taught archaeology and New Testament from 2009 to 2019. Dr. Graves served as field supervisor at Tel El Hammam excavation project in Jordan in 2005 under the direction of Dr. Stephen Collins. Dr. Graves joined the Associates for Biblical Research in 2009, and he worked alongside Dr. Scott Stripling and the Israeli Antiquities at Kirbet El Maktour. Dr. Graves excavated Cave 53 at Qumran. He served as board of directors for the Near Eastern Archaeological Society, and in 2005-2006, he worked with the Ark Imaging Team as director of operations for the Mount Ararat Archaeological Research Expedition in Turkey in search of Noah's Ark. Dr. Graves has written numerous peer-reviewed published articles for various archaeological journals, and two of his most popular books are Biblical Archaeology Volume 1, an introduction to the recent discoveries that support the reliability of the Bible, and Biblical Archaeology Volume 2, the famous discoveries that support the reliability of the Bible. I proudly refer to these books in my research and writing, and they are part of my library. Dr. Graves is now retired, but continues to teach children and adults alike about the importance of preserving artifacts and archaeological sites. Welcome, Dr. Graves. It's so wonderful to have you here on Called into Christ.
Well, thank you, William, for the invitation. It's always good to talk about archaeology, my passion, and it was no problem to chime in and join you.
Thank you. I can see you very well in the picture. I don't have a picture of myself, but because this is more of a podcast that goes, via words and everything online. Forgive me if I missed anything in you have a vast body of work, and if I missed anything in your years of archaeology as a historian, archaeologist, and educator, please, take this time to enlighten the audience.
Just one small minor correction. I taught archaeology at Liberty University. I was in charge of their online archaeology program. I did some theology as well, but primarily my work was in the field of archaeology there.
Mm-hmm.
I've written probably, I'm on my 40th book or something like that now, most of them are archaeology. I've even got some coloring books out there if anyone has children and wants to introduce them to archaeology. I've got some three coloring books for children, all based on archaeology. So there's information there for everybody.
Oh, yes. Yes. Dr. Graves, the first question I want to ask you can hear me okay, is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit of an echo, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay. This doesn't have to do necessarily with archaeology, and I will get to that in a moment, but you studied at the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. I love Scottish, Irish, and English history. I love it. I have a library behind me, or around me, that's 1,500 books. I love to do research on all kinds of things. Tell me what it was like. Tell me what that was like, being in the country in Scotland and studying there.
Well, it's quite amazing, really. I was introduced to Highland Theological College, which is connected with the University of Aberdeen. Years ago, my pastor knew some of the people there, so he put me in touch and said, "Why don't you go and do your PhD?" And I said, "Oh, I'm 50 years old. I'm a little old for doing it." He said, "Oh, you've got the background and the interest, and go ahead and do that." So that's what I did. I joined up and signed up for the program. Partway through, my program, my primary supervisor did his PhD under Howard Marshall at Aberdeen. And so he asked Howard if he would take me on. I was actually his last PhD student before he died.
Oh,
at the University of Aberdeen. So anybody knows New Testament scholarship, he's probably one of the world's renowned New Testament scholars in the area of Luke and the Gospels. And I did it on the book of Revelation, the 7 churches. So he signed me up, and he was an amazing supervisor. And so that's how I sort of got connected with Aberdeen initially. The Scottish system, the way they work, is that an individual college, a group of them come together and form a university.
Oh.
So it's a university of the Highlands and the Islands, of which University of Aberdeen is part of it. So I did my work at a theological college, but the degree comes through the University of Aberdeen in theology, just the way the system works. And then I went on to teach at Oxford at Regent Park College, the Baptist Christian college there at Oxford. I taught a course on the history of archaeology for a number of semesters. So I've got a pretty tight connection with Scotland and England, and loved it over there when I had a chance to travel over and visit.
And it must have been I know it's a beautiful country.
Beautiful, yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. I must tell you that when I was, like you, when I was young, very young, I was age 7, and it was 1970. And I became totally immersed and enamored with ancient history and archaeology of the Southern Mediterranean, Near East, and Holy Land when I read 2 books. First was God's Graves and Scholars by C.W. Serum, and the other was The Bible's History by Werner Keller. Tell me, how did you get in the field of archaeology, and what motivated you to become an archaeologist?
Well, this goes way, way back, probably to the 1960s. And there was a library at our church, and one of the volumes in it, a number of volumes, was the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, or dictionary. And I was thumbing through that one day and saw all these pictures, and I was just fascinated by the fact that there were actual objects that you could see, because they had these pictures, photographs, they're old, of these artifacts, and that's what really got me started. And then my undergrad, I had an opportunity in my undergrad course at Tyndale College in Ontario to take a course on biblical archaeology. And during the course, I was doing a paper on Sodom and Gomorrah. My professor said, go down to Toronto, downtown to Toronto Baptist Seminary. There's a guy down there that's an archaeologist, thinks he's found it. What, he's found Sodom? Yep, he thinks he's found it. So I went down and talked to Dr. Bryant Wood.
Yes.
We became lifelong friends.
Yes.
And he gave me all of his articles. And I presently disagree with him on the location of Sodom, but he's still a very good friend. And he gave me a lot of photographs for my books. And I dug with him on Makata till Kirbadel Makata for the very last day of the last season with Dr. Stripling and Dr. Bryant Wood. My dream.
Yes, I always get that word when it's because the references in Arabic place names. I always butcher them because I'm not good at it. But I try my best to do what I can. Dr. Grace, in your book, The History of Biblical Archaeology, Uncovering the Ancient World of the Bible, which I want to get, because I don't have that one yet. I've got your 2-volume set of biblical archaeology here. You describe the 2 camps that make up, if you will, the 2 sides of researching done by historians, archaeologists, philologists, anthropologists, and others as minimalist and maximalist. Please explain the difference between them and their views for the audience.
Well, to boil it down with my students, I used to explain it this way. The minimalists take the minimal amount of history, and the maximalists take the maximum amount of history.
Huh.
And so it's basically, conservative and liberal, or agnostic and Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the way I boil it down. And there's a whole lot of different positions in between. William Deaver is an archaeologist, quite famous.
Yes.
I would consider him a middlebalist. He's in the middle. So you got maximalists on one side, minimalists on the other side, and then you got some that are in the middle. So there's a spectrum that you have of individuals. I would consider myself to be a maximalist, and I take the maximal amount of history. I take the biblical text as historically accurate and true, can be relied upon.
Yes.
We don't always understand it correctly. That's not the fault of the Bible. That's an issue with us. But that's how I explain it to my students.
Yeah, I am very much a maximalist to the extreme extent that I believe in that. In that same book, you lay out the very early days of archaeology, which I studied extensively. Those who were antiquarians and the nationalism of archaeology today, and the difference between them. Have you had a good response from those who read the book, helping the understanding of the difference between those old days of persons of wealth, just trying to go to areas and find things, so that, they were just on adventures, basically. Have you improved that knowledge, the world's knowledge of understanding the ancient world the way we do it today, and the difference between antiquarians and how we do it today?
Yeah, I deal with it in two of my books. I have a book called The History of Biblical Archaeology. It's quite thick, and I go through the whole story of all the old antiquarians and how archaeology gets started. So I would say that things have really changed a lot scientifically since those early days of, the old pastors that would get on a donkey and ride through the Middle East and look at all the sites and try and identify them. And
yes,
Sir Henry Laird, and some of them were diplomats, and some of them were, working in these countries, Iraq and Iran. In those days, and on their weekends, they would go out and find things.
Mm-hmm.
These days, you need a permit. We identify a spot that we think there's a ancient ruin there. Colossae just started to be excavated this summer. So they're going to be excavating it. I've been there, and it was just simply a mound, but you could tell there was a lot of ruins around.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then you get a permit, and then you have to have a crew of volunteers, and you have to do a survey, and you have to be quite methodical. So it's all very scientific today. And in the old days, in those early years, some of them were looters. Some of them were just trying to fill their living room with artifacts.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in fact, that's how the British Museum got started.
Yes. Yes.
Hans Sloane, filled his house with artifacts, and then it turned into the British Museum. And I talk all about that in my book on the history of biblical archaeology.
Dr. Graves, when I was a kid, I so much wanted to be an archaeologist. But then I got married and I had to work, and I found myself, so I became, from a very young age, 55 years now, somebody that follows and has tons of books in this library. Some of them are hard to not published anymore, like Kathleen Kenyon, her Archaeology of the Holy Land, and I got W.F. Albright's Archaeology of Palestine, and I like to study those things and research, because I think it's important for people to understand not only how they did it then, but how they do it now, because you have now ground penetrating radar, which you can lay out a whole area before you even start digging. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually trained in that. I was going to be doing the GPR work for the Mount Ararat expedition until I had my heart attack, and then I couldn't climb. But I've used it at Tel El Hammam as well, trying to find some cavities and things that are there. It's got limitations, but we use all kinds of scientific methods. I introduced the use of iPads to collect our data, put it in our sheets and PDFs at Tel Shiloh, or Shiloh, as the Hebrew folks pronounce it. And so we had, we've just introduced wet sifting at Shiloh. Dr. Stripling and I brought it over from the Temple Mount Sifting Project to our work that we're doing at Shiloh. But we just think we discovered the the location of the tabernacle where it's this past season.
Oh, wow.
So, pretty fascinating, the work that's being done at Shiloh. And they've also got another thing they use there called a flotation device to get the botanical and small finds. So they've been able to find fish bones that you could never find before.
Right.
Because the stuff's too small and it goes through the sieve. So we're using all kinds of new technology in the field to identify Vivisa. These are sacred bones that were found at Shiloh. We've been able to determine what animals they were sacrificing, and just on the basis of using this technology. So a lot of fascinating things happening.
Yes, and the way they do it today is as far the technology allows you to be able to find the site and graph it out using GPR, and then go ahead and do your stratigraphy digging in small layers to uncover things. And it's fascinating.
Yeah, we use a surveyor. He uses a total station, and so we do a complete measured survey for all of the squares. I forget how many at Tel El Hammam. We got 62 acres at Hammam, and we've got thousands of squares, and we've only excavated, a few hundred of them.
Now you mentioned
we know where everything.
Go ahead.
We know where everything is because of the surveyor,
right?
And so we can, pinpoint exactly where we're digging, and then we go down with the depth. We know how deep things are, what period, what strata. We keep our bulks in place, and I was in charge of the Roman area, and I discovered the ancient city of Livius and the bath complex that I believe that Herod Antipas, who beheaded John the Baptist.
Wow.
This was his private bath complex. So for 10 seasons, I excavated that. I asked Dr. Stripling to join me, and then I've got some publications on that, and we published all the pottery. I've got a book out on that.
Yeah.
So
that's fascinating.
Publish or perish.
Yes, fascinating stuff. Really is, because for me, I found, I don't know. I mean, you were out in the field. You actually were at sites and dug. But if you're somebody like me, or like somebody like C.W. Serum, who followed it and wrote about it in books, or as I do, books and articles, for me to cover some of this stuff is a tremendous task. Egyptology alone would take me probably 300 years of lifetimes in order just to cover it all, let alone let alone the Holy Land, the Near East, and Rome and Greece. I mean, it's incredible. I'm doing research all the time. I'm continually busy all the time. Okay.
Yeah, my specialty is Roman, but I have supervised the excavation because the principles are the same. Supervised Middle Bronze and Iron Age squares at Tel El Hammam, because we believe it's Sodom. We've discovered Sodom there. And, 15 seasons of digging, we've got enough information. We found the city gate. We've got the rampart. We've got the city walls. We got the temple area. We got the palace complex. We got the domestic area. Um, double gates. Fascinating architecture there.
Mm-hmm.
And then a complete destruction in the Middle Bronze period when the patriarchs lived. So we've got all the goods. And so we've got enough information that we don't need to dig anymore. We've stopped digging at Tel El Hammam after 15 seasons because we've got enough to be able to publish. They're still going through the material in the lab with the bones and the pottery and soil samples and so forth. So they're still analyzing that.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be more coming out, but the actual excavation part of it, we've stopped. Because it costs a lot of money to, every season we'd have to raise $150,000 or more to go over there and dig, and because you're only working for 6 weeks or so.
Wow.
Then you come home, bring the sampling and all the data that you've collected home, and then you research and write for the rest of the year.
Let me ask you an interesting question in what you've just described. Are all sites, is this true with all sites or just some, where you dig for a season, you have to cover it back up and then come back and redig? Or is it left open and exposed? Is that true for every site?
No, it varies from site to site, and from country to country. So I've dug in and worked in Turkey and in Israel and in Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Visited Egypt, but the archaeological sites there have not excavated in Egypt. But our site is a banana field that's owned by a family of the Adwan tribe, and they use it for harvesting bananas. There's a banana plantation.
Mm-hmm.
Also some other tomatoes and eggplant and so forth. So one year we would go and the field would be plowed and it'd be laid fallow for us, so we could excavate that field. The next year we go back and there's bananas growing in it, so we'd have to go to another area.
Wow.
So sometimes you have to cover it over if they're farming it. The top of the tell was too rocky; they couldn't farm there, so it was left available for us every season.
Mm-hmm.
At Tel El Hammam, it's owned by a private individual farmer. Tel Shiloh is a national park under the control of the IAA and the Palestinian authorities. So nobody can dig there. We've got, except for ourselves when we have our permits, every year we can go there and dig. But it's a national park, so it's protected and preserved. So again, it varies from location to location and site to site.
You dug, as you have dug many seasons over in Israel. I love what I find out there from Dr. Stripling and other archaeologists, and from you, Dr. Stripling and others, of what they have found and what they're continuing to uncover. My question is, and I know this is not necessarily an area you go into, it's called philology, I believe. Do you have much trouble with, not the Israelites, the Israelite people, but the Palestinians? Because there seems to be a lot of trouble there, and it makes it kind of hard to dig at sites when you know that there's things going on in Israel, that, dissent going on, if you will.
Well, everybody's trying to make it political wherever you go. But I excavated at Qumran, K53, with some of our students from Liberty University. We had Palestinian, actually it was one of the relatives of the gentleman, the Bedouin who discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh, really?
Joseph was working with us, Palestinian, and then we had the Hebrew University, Oren Gutfeld working with us as well, side by side, and we got along fine. And
So
Joseph would make us tea in the morning, and we'd all sit around and have a cup of chai, and good
Wow.
friends.
Wow.
But
So,
we've been they tried to close down our Shiloh excavation, and they tried to actually take Dr. Stripling to court, saying it was an illegal dig, and we got thrown out of a hotel in Israel, in Israel one season because they said we were digging in the West Bank, and so they're all trying to politicize it all, but we're just trying to preserve the history of humanity, and we're not trying to make a political statement.
right.
We're not trying to resurrect Israel, or we're not trying to rebuild the temple, or
Right.
we're not trying to get into all that.
But when it comes to Israeli and Palestinians, when you're doing digs like that, they will come together and work together, is what you're saying.
Yeah, at Shiloh, we work hand in glove with the Palestinian authorities and the IAA, the Israeli Antiquities Authority. We work with both of them, and they get along. They have their squabbles and they have their debates, and everything's because everybody wants to politically charge it over there.
Right.
But the archaeologists, most of it, we just want to do our digging, and we don't want to. I'm not trying to prove the Bible. Bill Deaver tried to pin that on me one phone interview. He said that David's trying to prove the Bible. I said, no, I'm not. He said, no respectable archaeologist would dig with the Bible in one hand and a spade in the other. I said, well, no respectable archaeologist would go into the field without his Bible and without his spade. You need them both, and Deaver uses both. So that was kind of a rude comment, really.
Yeah, and I know
we're not trying to prove it. We're
Right.
just I'm trying to expose what's there and trying to understand, because it helps me understand the text, the biblical text.
and
It doesn't prove it. Otherwise, archaeology would be superior to the Bible.
right. Yeah.
And the Bible's not superior to archaeology. So it's archaeology is the handmaid, of Scripture.
Yeah, I'm very familiar because I watch Digging for Truth, which is Associate for Biblical Research on YouTube. I watch the show, and I very much I like Dr. Wood. I like Dr. Stripling. I think that whole organization of ABR is right on when it comes to biblical research. They're not too far to the left or too far to the right. They're right. They're maximalists, but they're right in the middle, and they what the Bible says and what they find, they cooperate with the Bible, and that's what it is.
Yeah, I've dug with many of them. I'm a member of the Associates for Biblical Research, and I've published a number of articles in the Bible and Spade magazine. And Henry Smith, who hosts the program, he dug beside me at Shiloh.
Oh, really?
We're good friends.
Oh, wow.
Really good friends. Yeah. So I highly recommend that to the listeners. I also have a podcast that has 250,000 followers. Bible Interact, and it's called Biblical Archaeology from the Ground Down, and Explorers of the Lost Vaults. And you can just Google for it. It's got YouTube. I got a few hundred YouTube. I do a podcast once a week with George Sparks, who is he's a curator. He buys and sells artifacts for museums, and so we highlight artifacts on the program and take them out of the vault and show people what they look like, the real ones, not just fakes.
Right. As you know, I've been doing this, as I've mentioned before, researching ancient history and archaeology for about 55 years now, and I am, of course, as I said before, a maximalist to the true sense of the word. But I get frustrated when I see things, when I have books in my library and I see things on YouTube of minimalists who are just throwing the Bible away and the truth away, some examples of that are like the creation story, Noah and the flood, and especially the Exodus. I get frustrated with them doing that, and I'm in a mode of wanting to correct their
Well,
belief, their what they believe in, especially the Exodus.
well, Bill, I get frustrated on both sides. Because you got the folks that are naive Christians that get sucked into the pseudo archaeology of Ron Wyatt, finding all kinds of things. It's nothing but foolishness and pseudo archaeology. There's no science to it, and there's no archaeology to it, and he just makes stuff up, and Christians fall for it. And there's so much misinformation. And then there's the the maximalists that take and make more of the evidence than is actually there.
Ah, yes.
So they take what they find, and then they spin a story to make it fit the Bible, to say, oh, look, we've proved the Bible. The pool of Siloam proves that Jesus healed the blind man. It doesn't do any such thing. All it does is proves that there was a pool, that we understand it to be Siloam, but you can't go any further than that.
Right.
Now, I believe the miracle took place and happened, but archaeology doesn't prove that.
Right, and it can't, and it cannot.
It can't.
So, give me your take on Moses and the Exodus. I am staunchly part and believe in the early date of the Exodus.
Okay, well, it comes to dating. When you go beyond, when you get into the Pentateuch, you've got a dating system there that is totally different from our Greco-Roman base 10 numbering system we have today.
That's true.
So you can't sit down and try and work out all the dates and how old the Earth is based on those numbers. To start with, the Sumerians, out of which Moses came and Abraham came. Moses was educated in Egypt, and Abraham came out of Mesopotamia. They're all base 6, not base 10. So everything was 60.
Oh, wow.
And they were honorific.
Right.
So you've got on the Sumerian kings list, you've got the Sumerian kings reigning and living for like 75,000 years. Those aren't literal numbers. They didn't celebrate birthdays like we do. They honored them. They said, okay, he's a king. This king is bigger than the other king. It's all divisible by 6.
Right.
So again, you have to be careful that you don't try and impose our Western Greco-Roman thinking on a people who didn't think that way. They didn't think like we did. They didn't celebrate birthdays like we did. They didn't count numbers like we count numbers.
Right.
So people have got to be so careful when they go back and try and improve the Bible. The Bible says the earth is 6,000 years old. The Bible doesn't say any such thing. The Bible says that the earth was created by him, by God. And it says it was 6 days. Are those 6 literal days? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they're honorific days.
Right.
And just because you hold that view doesn't mean, you're throwing inspiration and the inerrancy of Scripture out the window.
Right. Well, here was something that. Go ahead.
And that's another pet peeve of mine, because modern Christians open their Bibles and try and read it like the Greeks and the Romans did.
Right.
And they don't see it through ancient Near Eastern eyes.
Yep.
So my goal with archaeology is to try and help us understand the text based on archaeology. I mean, why did Moses call his sister his wife, and his wife his sister?
Right.
Because in that culture, that's how you honored a woman.
Right.
And we know that from the ancient text and tablets the Amarna tablets and the Nuzi tablets and all of these tablets that are in the British Museum that have been translated and we can read. They tell us that that was the custom of the day. We know that from archaeology. So that helps us understand these very strange customs, especially in the early chapters of the Pentateuch and of Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus.
Right.
So we got to be careful when we read that part of the Bible, the Pentateuch, because unless you understand the culture out of which it came, the ancient Near East, you're going to misunderstand it totally. And that's not the problem with the Bible. That's our problem.
That's our problem, yes. Yeah, here's what I've always believed, and it's very it's basic common sense when you're Christian common sense. Believe in the Bible and what it says as the truth. Go to the chronology of the Bible, because God does not lie. Man can alter, and man has altered chronologies. And if you one great example of that is in Egypt, Tutmosis III fought the Hittite king at the Battle of Hattusa, and the battle ended up being a draw. But when he went back to Egypt, in hieroglyphs, he put in there in his temple that he had won the battle. Well, the Hittite king found out, wrote angry letters to him and said, "No, you didn't. That was a draw. Your chariots started to win the battle. My cavalry came in from the sides, and it ended up being a draw." And this is why I emphasize the chronology of the Bible over man's version of history. Would you agree with that?
Well, I would say that everybody's got a bias.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're listening to CNN or NBC or listening to some independent, something on Rebel News, for example, or whatever, everybody's got a bias. And even the Bible has a bias. It's got a biblical bias.
Right.
It's got Yahweh's bias.
Yeah.
And the Egyptians had their bias, and the Assyrians had their bias, and they always wrote their history to make it look good for their God.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So we need to keep that in mind when we're reading the Bible and when we're reading the ancient texts, that everybody's got their bias, just like we have today.
Right.
So know your biases, be honest about them, and be accurate with them.
Your team conducted excavation you mentioned at Tel Hammam. Tell me what evidence you've uncovered to show that this is Sodom, as told in Genesis chapter 19.
And also 14. Well, you've got an early bronze, so Genesis 10.
Okay.
It's mentioned with the ancient cities, Nineveh, and so forth, and Babel. And then we go from the early bronze all the way up to the middle bronze. Everybody accepts that's the time of the patriarchs. And very easily state it in three prepositions. It's in the right place, the right time, with the right stuff.
Yes.
So the right place, it's where the Bible describes Abraham was when Abraham and Lot separated. Where were they? They were up on the hills between Bethel and Ai.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually, Kirbet el-Makar is Ai, so we know where that is.
Right.
I've dug there. When you stand there and you look across the Kikar, is the Hebrew word, that's the plain of the Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see the south end of the Dead Sea. Some say it's Baba Dra, but you can't see it from there. But you can clearly see Tel El Hammam and all the cities of the plain that were there down in the valley. So it's the right place, and all the other biblical indicators. Some people try and make an argument for it being the south from poetic passages of Scripture, but hermeneutically, you can't use poetry to identify geography and narrative passages. It's not a narrative, it's poetry.
Right. Right.
So you have to hermeneutically, you have to exegetically, you have to use and treat that type of material differently in Scripture. You can't treat it all as narrative, and some people try and do that, and that's a fallacy that is just terrible.
Right, right.
So it's in the right place on the key car, right where the Bible says it is. And then he goes east. Lot goes east. Actually, there's no north, south, east, or west in Hebrew. So he went forward because the setting of the sun is how they determine the rising of the sun and how they determine the directions.
Mm-hmm.
But we know he went east, went forward, and you go as far east as you can on that plain, and presto, there's 62 acres of Tel El Hammam, the largest site in the entire Levant. Now, to give you a size idea, at this time of the Middle Bronze, Jericho is only 10 acres. This is Tel El Hammam is 62 acres.
Wow.
Jerusalem was only 10 acres.
Wow.
Tel El Hammam is 62 acres, so it's a city-state.
Right. Yes.
And that's why Lot went there, because everybody knew it. And we have it mentioned in the Ebla tablets in the early Bronze period, because they were trading with them. They were trading partners with Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom.
Yep.
So it's in the right place, the right time. So we have Middle Bronze destruction, the time period of the patriarchs. A massive destruction. We now know it was taken out by a meteor that had come in. We've got 22 universities and scholars have been analyzing the debris all around Tel El Hammam and inside Tel El Hammam, and have discovered that it was a meteorite that had come into the atmosphere. An air burst exploded and took out the entire Jordan Valley, so nobody could live there for 500 years. And that's what the archaeological record shows us, is that it was for 500 years. Nobody's living there. There's no plants growing. They can't take their sheep and goats there. They go up onto the plateau. That's where they put their encampments in the late Bronze period.
Mm-hmm.
It takes 500 years for the soil to rejuvenate, and actually we've tested the soil at that level, and it's toxic with salt.
Wow.
Now, it's too high to be flooded by the Jordan Valley. So it's way above being able to be flooded. So the salt came some other way, and it was splashed and spewed when the meteorite came into the atmosphere and exploded. We've seen a couple of those. One of them recently in Russia, and then the other one at Tunguska.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there was another one just here this year, actually, in the United States. Meteorite that had come into the atmosphere and exploded, and they've got some of the parts and pieces. But anyway, and everything's directional. The destruction's all being blown in one direction.
Right. And so that would explain the fire and brimstone that the Bible says from a meteor.
Out of the sky.
Yep. Now,
perfectly, exactly. And that's how they described it in their understanding in the ancient Near East. And so it meets it perfectly. So the right time, the right place, and again, the right stuff. The right destruction, and we've got human remains being blown in one direction. We've got pottery blown in one direction, and massive, just completely blown off. A kern that was used for, you couldn't pick it up. It was blown off its pedestal and thrown into the corner of the room. And so anyway, if it's not Sodom, I don't know what major city bigger than Jericho and bigger than Jerusalem was not mentioned in the Bible.
Right. It has to be one of the biggest sites in the ancient world, if not the biggest, right?
Yeah,
62,
yeah, and that's why it's mentioned in Genesis as being the cities of the plain, and Sodom is mentioned a number of times as being a significant, significant place. Now, some people use the argument, well, Tel El Hammam was reoccupied in the Iron Age and during the time of Solomon, so it can't be Sodom because it had to be destroyed forever. Well, no, Sodom is gone. Mm-hmm. Sodom was destroyed forever. the people went back after the salt had leached out of the ground and they could plant crops again, and they built a site at and around that location after had been rejuvenated, but it wasn't Sodom.
Right.
It was another unnamed, it was an administrative site for Solomon. And then it became Livius during the Roman period that I excavated. Even Jerusalem was cursed at one point, and it still came back. So just because something's cursed doesn't mean people can't go back there and live at a later time period. But for 500 years, there's nobody living in that entire Jordan Valley. And that's true of every site around the Jordan Valley, even affected Jericho.
Wow. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of something else too, that I have been along with that idea of the Exodus, the minimalist and maximalist views of the Exodus, was the minimalists say, well, it was Ramesses, which would be Ramesses the second, the Great, would have been the Pharaoh, but that city was a treasure city. Just right next to it was a city called Avaris, which was where the Israelites lived.
Yeah, I've been there.
Have you?
I've been to Avaris, Tel Dabe,
Ah,
all the cities up there in the Egyptian Delta region that have been excavated. We had to take an armed vehicle to get in there, but yeah, I actually visited that with the Associates for Biblical Research,
oh
and
wow.
number of years ago. So I've got photos in my book on it. So I'm quite familiar with it.
Yeah.
I found mud brick made without straw.
Really?
Yeah.
I am just amazed. I still very much want to go, and even if I'm a volunteer and help dig, with ABR or something. But and I'm 62 now, and it gets hard. It gets harder for me to have the money to go and the ability to go, because you're talking about, if I'm not, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to pack a stuff for your trip. You have to have your papers in order so that you can go to this foreign country. You have to get the tools to help dig, and help excavate. And it just gets harder for me to so I just continue to write and research and see what's going on in the newest things of in various archaeology throughout the southern Mediterranean, Near East, and Holy Land.
Yeah, we call them armchair archaeologists instead of field archaeologists.
Yeah, but
yeah, my digging days are over as well. I'm turning 70, so my dig days are over. I've had some health issues, and so I can't do that anymore. But I can continue to write, continue to talk about it, and do the podcasts, and so I do that and enjoy it.
So we're talking about Tel El Hammam in the north of the north of the Dead Sea. The minimalists believe it's in the south, but doesn't it say it says in there that when Abraham looked over the land of the plains and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as a smoke of a furnace. Now, if I look at the topography of Israel around the Dead Sea, it seems almost impossible to be able to see from the south, but yet you can see it from the plains. You can, as you're walking away from the plains, you can look back and see it if it's in the north. Am I correct?
Well, that passage I think that you're referring to is where Abraham is at in Hebron, and you can see the north and the south. You can see smoke from the north and the south from that location. So that doesn't make an argument for the north or the south. What's really interesting is that you mentioned about all the old explorers. If you go back and look at all the old explorers, Thompson and
Dr. J.A. Thompson?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And who else? So anyway, all the old fellows, Henry Laird, They all put, because they used the biblical text in the Hebrew, they followed the text. They put Sodom and the cities of the plain at the north end of the Dead Sea. It was only when Albright came along and started looking south. Now, he knew it wasn't Baba Dra because it has only early bronze pottery there. So it's too early for the patriarchs to have lived.
Right.
So he didn't find a site down there, even though it looks like it's been cursed. He decided to put it underneath the Dead Sea. Well, nobody's, excavated the Dead Sea, but the Dead Sea right now is at its lowest point in history. It's as low as it was even in the Byzantine period. And there's no archaeological evidence of a site called Sodom down there. Ron Wyatt looks around and sees some sulfur balls, and there's another guy that's been running around doing videos on that as well with sulfur balls. I won't mention names I don't want to
right.
poo-poo anybody.
No.
But just because you find sulfur balls someplace, sulfur balls are all around the Dead Sea. And the word sulfur has really been misunderstood in the text in Hebrew. It's golfit in Hebrew, and it simply means lightning, basically, which is what we have with an airburst
right.
event. So they all the old guys put it in the north end of the Dead Sea. You can't see when Moses looks around and mentions the boundaries of Israel. He talks about going up to Dan and then going up to the Mediterranean and then swinging around, and then he ends with Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, Sodom and Gomorrah is at the base of Mount Nebo.
Right.
And you can't see the south end of the Dead Sea from there. Some people argue, well, they had a vision. Well, you can make them say whatever you want to make them say it, but you have to use the exegesis of the text, and the text doesn't say it.
Right. Yeah, because, I think the minimalists they've been doing that for years, they do it with the Exodus, they do it with this, with Sodom and Gomorrah, they do it even with the creation story.
Well, the minimalists don't believe that Sodom even happened. All they believe is it was a story that was made up. Atheological myth, they call it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Even the two guys that dug it at Baba Dra, Rast and Schwab, both of them are liberal minimalists. They don't believe that Sodom ever happened. They said, well, no, this is the city that was destroyed in the Middle Bronze period, or the Early Bronze period, destroyed, and that's what led to the creation of this myth story that they put in the Bible.
Oh.
So that's how they treat it.
Right.
But I take it to be a literal historic city that existed and was destroyed. Was destroyed for 500 years, and then we have it. The land in the area being resurrected as another location or another name under Solomon. And we've got the storehouses there, so we know it was an administrative center. But there's no doubt in my mind after 15 years of working there, and I've been researching Sodom and Gomorrah from Baba Dra to Tel El Hammam for the better part. Let's see, I was 1978 when I did my paper on Sodom and Gomorrah, so I've been researching it since then.
Oh, my goodness.
So I know it well, and I've researched it. I've written my book on the location of Sodom, and there is no doubt in my mind that place is Sodom.
Dr. Graves, you conducted, along with the Associates for Biblical Research at Shiloh from 2017 to 2019. And I believe Dr. Scott Stripling is still there. He goes there.
Yeah.
And what was your overview of what was found between 2017 and 2019 in Shiloh? And what new discoveries have there been since that time?
Well, if everybody wants more details on that, we interviewed Dr. Stripling last week, and the podcast is now up on Bible Interact. So if you want to search for Bible Interact, Shiloh, Dr. Stripling, you'll hear it from as we say, the proverbial horse's mouth.
I will surely do that. Yes,
But I'll give you a recap. He believes that he's found the spot, the location where the tabernacle was resurrected. So what happened is, when the Ark of the Covenant came to rest at Shiloh, they ended up building walls, permanent structure for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the roof of it was a tent, so they put the tent that was used for the tabernacle over the top of it, but there were actually stone walls, and we found the dimensions, the same dimensions of the tabernacle, and he found the entrance this past season, so he's got that all marked out. We know that the Ark of the Covenant was there. We know from ancient writers and from the Jewish writings that there was a permanent structure that the Ark set in during its residence at Shiloh. The favisa, the sacrificial animals and bones that were used, there's a big pile of them there. Those have been analyzed. They even know what side of the animal they came from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and what kind of animals they were. No pig bones, of course.
Of course.
Horned altars there. They've got some other things that a scarab this year that will help the dating. He's publishing that, so he couldn't. I didn't have pictures, but there's photographs of some other things there on the podcast that I edited. So they're going to be going back this coming year. So if anybody wants to sign up and go over, they can. Just search for Shiloh Expedition at Associates for Biblical Research website. You'll find it.
Dr.
Join and
Dr. Graves.
yes.
What would it take for a person today to have their papers in order or their passports in order, and to go over and help at a dig site? What would you think it would cost today?
Oh, it depends on the site. It depends where you stay, what hotel you stay in. We stayed at the Movenpick, the 5-star hotel at Tel Hammam for the first 5 or 6 seasons, and it was quite expensive. A great place to go back to after, and then go to the spa after you dig all day. And
Yes.
the food was amazing.
Yes.
It was right on the Dead Sea. They stay at the Olive Garden up in Jerusalem. It's not as expensive. It's in the Palestinian side of Jerusalem. They drive up to Shiloh every morning. So it depends, but they have all their prices and everything there. I couldn't guess now with the exchange rate and everything. And then you got to take in consideration the war of the
yes.
They dug this past year right with the missiles flying over their heads, and they stayed there. It was actually safer for them to stay at Shiloh than it was for them to go back to Jerusalem. So whether they get a peace deal struck or not, doesn't look like Netanyahu wants one, but we pray for peace.
Right.
And things seem to be heating up there with Lebanon, and so people got to take that in consideration. I always felt safe when I was in Jordan. I never had any issues. So 15 years and 20 years or so that I worked over there in different countries, I never had really any issues. But recently things have gotten a little heated, and I have to take that in consideration. The year that I was going to go to Kirbet el-Makadar, it was too dangerous in Israel, and some of my friends said, we're going to be going to a new dig at Tel Hammam in Jordan. So that's how I got signed up on that. I didn't even know it was Sodom at the time.
Right. Yeah.
But paperwork, your visas and things, you need, you get a visa stamp at the Jordanian border when you enter. It used to be $20 US, and now I don't know what the price is, but they keep putting it up.
Right. And I assume you could also exchange money, unless they take American money in various places like hotels. But then you have to consider.
Oh yeah, they used to prefer the American money because it had more value to it. But you can get your shekels there and Jordanian dinar at the hotel, or money changers there. So money's not an issue. Visas, that's not an issue. You just have to make sure you don't have a stamp in your passport from Iraq or Iran or Lebanon,
Right, right,
Syria,
right.
one of these countries that are not friendly. But I used to cross over from Jordan to Israel and Israel to Jordan through the King Hussein Bridge and Allenby Bridge.
Wow.
Had no issues.
Have you ever you were on the Dead Sea? Did you have an opportunity to swim in there or float in there, as they say, in the Dead Sea? Because I hear you can't. You can go in, but no matter you're just floating on top of the water.
Lots of my friends have done it. I'm an archaeologist, and I don't like. I've got my feet wet, but that's the extent of it. I've never floated in it. I never tried. My friends have all done that, but my mom did when she went to Israel with me in 89?
Mm-hmm.
My mom and I went to Israel, and she did that, floated in it, but I never did, and I had no desire to. It's kind of slimy with all the minerals.
Right, right. And nothing grows
so
there.
I never bothered.
Nothing grows there, does it?
No, nothing grows, and there's a few fish that you have up in the where the freshwater springs enter into
Mm-hmm.
from the wadis.
Right.
There's a few freshwater fish right at the mouth, but it's too salty for fish to grow to live there.
And did I hear or understand in my reading? I don't know if it was here or reading, but birds really don't even fly over that area because it is so the saltiness and what comes up from that Dead Sea. The birds don't bother; they go around it. Is that true?
I've never really paid any attention much. We've got a lot of birds around the Movenpick Hotel, flocks of them. I hear them all night long, sometimes up in the tree. But of course, no fish there for them to feed on, so I have no desire to. I guess I have seen a few birds land on the water. No, I never really paid much attention to that.
In your closing here, give us your best the site which you most enjoyed excavating at.
Oh, I enjoyed all of them. They all had their special moments. To be the first person in 50 years to excavate one of the Dead Sea Scroll caves.
Yes.
It was a thrill of a lifetime.
Oh,
we found a blank scroll. We found the pottery that the scrolls were in, so that was pretty exciting for me. Tel El Hammam, to be there for 15 years, associated with it, and excavating Herod Antipas's bath complex, discover that and identify it as Livius was pretty amazing. And then Shiloh, being part of that excavation and finding the temple where the Ark of the Covenant stood. I found a coin at the Temple Mount Sifting Project. We were sifting there, the remains from the Temple Mount, so that was pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah.
I found the first whole jar that came out of Tel El Hammam was from the Iron Age, the time of Solomon, and it was about 3 feet high and double-handled, Iron Age 2A storage jar, not a mark on it, perfect condition. I carried it back on the bus with me and in my lap, so delicate. I didn't want it to be broken, so that was a pretty amazing. I've got photos of me holding that. My books. I've got my autobiography's out now called Beneath the Sands of Time: The Adventures of an Archaeologist, and I recounted all the stories and my snake story that I have, like Indiana Jones. I gotta have a snake story.
Right.
And,
Right.
Palestinian saw-scaled viper encounter I had. The Bedouin boy who was working with me. Very bad, very bad, very bad. So,
The one book
Abu Ahmed's son.
Go ahead.
So there's about 300 pages of material in my autobiography with lots of pictures, and there's a big poem in there that one of our dig fellows, Lynn Wilson, wrote for us, a pastor who liked to write poetry. So I got a beautiful poetry that rhymes about our adventures. And,
Great. That's wonderful.
Every place I've gone and all the adventures and stories I have to tell. So it's paperback on Amazon, Beneath the Sands of Time, if anybody wants to read more of the adventures.
Your one book that I need to get a hold of, that's one of them, your autobiography. Another is, I want to get a copy of the History of Biblical Archaeology, Uncovering the Ancient World of the Bible. I do not have a copy of that, and I want to get one because I want to read more about you cover the antiquarians, and you cover what is going on today and how they do things today. I want to get my hands on that, and I'm going to do that. Even if I go to somewhere like Thrift Books to get it, I will pick it up.
Yeah. And right now I'm working on the web New Testament Study Bible Archaeology Edition.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's going to use the web translation, it's the 1901 New American Standard version, but it's copyright free is the reason I'm using it, and it's a good translation. It's got critical notes at the bottom of the page, and then there's a commentary in there of archaeology notes, and it's going to have thousands and thousands of. I don't know if you've seen any of the archaeology study Bibles, but it's going to be similar with sidebars and lots of texts and material in there. But it's going to be my material from my books, and it's going to be everything I've collected over the years. So that's coming out. I'm working away on it, so hopefully in the next year I'll have that completed.
Well, Dr. Graves, I want to thank you for coming on this podcast today. It certainly has been a pleasure to have you here. I want to extend my offer for you to come back and be a part of this podcast again. I'm working trying to get, I want you to come back, but I'm also trying to get either Dr. Wood or Dr. Stripling to come on board here on the podcast. But I know that they work in seasons in archaeology, excavations at Shiloh and other places. So I'm going to try and get them to come, but I would like to have you come back again for another episode. Would you be willing to come back?
Yeah, sure. If I get the time free, I'm trying to get these podcasts that we did this week. I'll edit it and working on my book, and so limited time really. And my health is, trying to keep that going.
Right. Yeah. I'm constantly like you. I'm constantly busy. I have to teach.
Yeah.
I have to teach. I'm going to be teaching classes at my church of biblical history and archaeology starting in the fall. I'm working on the next podcast. I also am working on several books that some of them are almost done. I'm like you. I'm constantly busy too, and this podcast keeps me busy all the time. But thank you for coming on board. I really appreciate you coming and discussing the wonderful world of archaeology and your experience and what you've done in the field all these years. I want to thank you because you are a huge contributor to archaeology and the understanding of it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for inviting me. God bless.
God bless. This concludes today's podcast. I want to personally thank you for listening today, and to all our listeners here in the United States, as well as all over the world. I promise to start our new podcast series of Part 1, Answers Concerning Moses and the Exodus, and we shall do that here coming up in our next podcast. Please pray for the workers and Christians in foreign countries who are under the umbrella of Voice of the Martyrs. This is a ministry that I fully support. And now concerning today's podcast, you can look up the Associates for Biblical Research at BibleArchaeology.org. You can also read articles of biblical archaeology. You can also watch the Associates for Biblical Research videos on YouTube, and their show is called Digging for Truth. You can look up Dr. Gray's peer-reviewed published papers and books that he has written at Aberdeen, A-B-E-R-D-E-N, at academia.edu. Plugged into Christ is published through Buzzsprout.com. You can also find Plugged into Christ on Spotify, Pandora, iTunes, Podcast Index, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Alexa, Podchaser, Pocket Casts, Deezer, Listen Notes, and Player FM. Tell your friends, relatives, and members, family members, as well as your neighbors, to tune into this podcast. When you do, and when they do, I know you'll be blessed. Again, I want to thank Dr. David E. Graves for lending his expertise in the ancient world of biblical archaeology and history. If you'd like to leave me a comment, please drop me a line at my email at Poulos, P-O-U-L-O-S, W-T, at yahoo.com. You can go on Buzzsprout.com and enter a comment under this podcast of Plugged into Christ. This has been a presentation of Plugged into Christ with your host, pastor and teacher, William Poulos. Our next podcast will be Part 1, Answers Concerning Moses and the Exodus. Until we come together next time for our next broadcast, this is William Poulos, praying that God and His blessings will be with you always.